Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast.
Well, good evening, everybody. Hope you're having a good time at home tonight with your families and having a nice meal. Hopefully you're done now so you can hear this really important podcast that's going to happen, this interview with a gentleman that I've known for probably about 25 years.
I think probably 30.
Wow. He's been involved in Chula Vista community, everything for many, many years. And I remember when he first started running for office, which is probably 30 years ago, right?
20 years ago, I ran in 2000 and then was elected in 2002.
Time's going by too quick.
Oh, it is. It's amazing.
But I haven't even mentioned his name. Maybe you can read his shirt, so maybe I don't need to mention his name. John McCann, thank you for being here.
Oh, honored to be here. Thank you for having me, Brett.
Well, I can't even imagine the schedule between your family, being city councilman, running for mayor, and then also being able to still do all your duties with everything that you've always been very involved, but it's different this time, isn't it?
Well, I'm always a type A personality. I want to be able to get things done and help people. And for instance, from being a little kid, being raised from my mom, there's always been an ethic that you want to give back and do service to the community. And I just really love helping other people, and I love the city of Chula Vista.
Well, you do, and I know you do because we've had many discussions through the years, and I know you really love what you do, and I know you love the city of Chula Vista. So you're a local guy from Chula Vista. You went to what school?
So I went to Parkview Elementary School.
Okay.
Then to Bonita Vista. Actually was junior high back then. Now it's called middle school. And then graduated from Bonita Vista High School. The interesting thing is where my mom's house is sort of was on the boundaries. So my mom's house was originally with zoned for Hilltop. Then it got zoned for Bonita, because Bonita didn't have enough kids, believe it or not, back in the day. Then it went to Castle Park, then it went to East Lake, and now it's Otay Ranch.
Gee, it's just you've been all, so I mean, you could have went probably either way, and you decided, right?
Yeah, my sister had been going to Bonita Vista High School, so it was just easier to have us at the same school. And I was just happy to be able to go to school and get a quality education.
So you've seen all the changes in Chula Vista. You've been at the ground floor for many years. You know everybody knows you. And how much has it changed?
Oh, it's changed tremendously. When I was a child, we had 60,000 people. Now
Really?
We're pushing 300,000. Where my mom's house was, beyond the backyard was the entire eastern side of the city, and that's all fully developed. I've been very fortunate to be able to, in the 90s, I was on the Housing Advisory Commission, was on the Planning Commission, and then lucky enough to get elected in the early 2000s. Got reelected. Then I had to got mobilized to fight in the war in Iraq after 9/11. Then came back, was able to get back on the council in 2014, then 2018. And we've had a tremendous amount of positivity at the city of Chula Vista, seen all the way from revitalizing and helping build sidewalks and undergrounding power lines on the western side of the city, to being part of the team that helped create East Lake, that was 10 years in a row the best new home community in the county. So I've been very fortunate to be able to be a leadership role for 30 years in helping the community.
Well, you have, and you've, again, thank you for your service to our country, because you are, without a doubt, probably one of the most selfless individuals that I know. You've always given to other people, just the way you are. You always have been. Since I've known you, you haven't changed. You're consistent. Typically, the word consistent is a boring word, and a lot of people don't like to use it. But I have to tell you, in this day and age, with the craziness going on in the world, consistency is very needed. We need someone that's proven. We need somebody that knows the city, that was born and raised in it, knows where everybody's at a phone call. That's you.
Well, I appreciate that. And consistency is something where I like to be able to do that, but consistently getting better. That's always been my idea and my goal. And I'm here to support other people. We have great people at the city who do great work. I'm endorsed by the Chula Vista police officers. They've been able to help us become one of the safest cities in the county. I'm endorsed by the Chula Vista Employees Association. They are the unsung heroes of the city, and they deserve a lot of credit. And I'm there to support them. I'm there to be able to give them the resources and the funds to be able to do the job as best they can, and they do a great job.
They do. The city of Chula Vista is wonderful, and I've had opportunities where I was on committees in the past, a long time ago.
Thank you for your service.
No, I mean it was the right thing to do, right? I mean, that's where we grew up.
Yeah,
we care about it. I still live in Chula Vista.
Yes,
and I care about what's going on there all the time. I mean, you and I talk about this stuff, and you're always aware. Every time I ever bring something to you or we've talked about anything, you always know the answer, and that makes me feel good about you being potentially being our mayor of Chula Vista, because we need somebody that's quick on their feet. Somebody knows where everything is needed and where things at, because we are growing. It's a big city. It's growing. It's no longer that little 60,000 populous city that we remember. And now I hear there's talk about a university finally.
Yes. The possibilities of Chula Vista are tremendous. I remember when I first got on the city council, many of the other cities were fully built out, and they would get a Walmart, and that would be like their biggest accomplishment in 8 years as a council member.
Yeah, I like to go to Walmart once in a while.
Yes, we love it. And we've just had such a great opportunity, and I've worked with so many great leaders at the city of Chula Vista, like Greg Cox, Shirley Horton, and just the foundation that they built to be able to create the new Bayfront $1.2 billion project with Gaylord, and then also to be able to bring in San Diego State to bring their media and communications department down. They're going to be locating that down in the Eastern Territories in Millennia. And these are just tremendously great opportunities. But again, we have our challenges. Obviously, number one thing we want to do is fight crime. And again, that's why I'm endorsed by the Chula Vista police officers. Second thing is we've got to make sure that we get homeless off the street. We were very instrumental in creating a homeless recovery team to be able to get people off the streets. And then we're building a bridge shelter to be able to give them a wraparound service. We went out, we found the best operator nonprofit in the entire state of California, CityNet. They have the highest ability and results oriented to get homeless off the street and back into our community. And then lastly, I want to make sure I grew up very poor. My mom worked at the Aurora Aircraft Factory back when we were a one company town. And, just the idea, I know gas is now $6 a gallon, but I remember
a couple years ago, it wasn't.
Yes. I remember when I was a kid in the 70s and early 80s, I mean, I would save my money so we could make sure that we had enough gas to get to different places with my mom. And I understand this type of gas prices, this type of cost of living really is very challenging to people who are working class. And I understand and feel their pain.
Yeah, because you've been there, and you also you can talk to these individuals and say, I understand, I know, I'm sorry you're going through this. Are there more opportunities now with everything that you've mentioned than when your mom was struggling the way she was?
I think things are always different. I mean, there's always, as each year goes by, there's always new opportunities, but there's also always new challenges. I believe that Chula Vista has more opportunities now. With the Bayfront project, we're going to be creating 4,000 new construction jobs and then 4,000 ongoing jobs. That's really going to be able to provide revenue so it can help revitalize our Western communities and revitalize the older communities. All you have to do is go to 3rd Avenue downtown. We were able to set the stage for allowing the restaurants, the bars, the breweries to be able to get there. And now it's a destination point where people will come down and enjoy, relax, spend their money in Chula Vista. And that's the type of revitalization we want to continue to move forward with.
Well, it's happening. And we don't live that far away from the. Do you have any questions? Is somebody okay? I thought maybe my eyes are going. Larry Dalrose. Okay, Larry Dalrose said we did. Says good luck, John, and the race. I like your wife Missy and your son John. Larry Dalrose.
Well, thank you very much. My wife is definitely my better half.
She's amazing. She's an amazing woman.
Yes, she is. I just love her tremendously, and
big support. You guys have been through hell and back together with all kinds of varieties of things that all families go to, and if anything, you've gotten stronger, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, we could write a book on so many different things. I know when I had my car accident, it was a tremendous challenge, and my wife was able to pick up, carry on. When I got mobilized after 9/11 to fight in the war in Iraq, I remember when I joined the Navy or was in the Navy, my wife was sort of like, what is this Navy thing? And I said, hey, at that time, we're the world's only superpower, and we won Desert Storm, and don't worry about it, I'm in the Navy. But then when 9/11 happened and they started the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq, the administration didn't want to go to a draft, but they needed people to help with the Army and the Marines. And so they said, how are we going to get all these people to do that combat and combat support? So they said, hey, look at all these Navy people that are reservists, and we'll mobilize them. So I had to go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, do Army combat training.
I'm laughing in a good way, by the way. I'm not laughing sarcastically. You would probably didn't expect that to happen, and you willingly went, of course.
Yeah, and it was one of those experiences where it was like boot camp. You enjoyed it. It was a great time, but you wouldn't want to do it again. But I was one of thousands over several years of what they called the individual augmentee program. Mm-hmm. We went as a Navy reservist, got activated. We did Army combat training. We wore Army uniforms most of the time. And then out of each class, half of us went to Afghanistan, half of us went to Iraq. And I was in Iraq, Mosul, Iraq, boots on the ground. I was one of the only Navy guys on an Army base in an Army uniform. And it was an interesting thing. I mean, a lot of just different Army versus Navy things. And seeing I was sort of in the minority, it was pretty interesting.
How difficult and challenging has trying to run for mayor in an area? Because we had this discussion, I forget how many years back, about the diversity of Chula Vista. And with the current times, the way things are, Chula Vista is very heavily Democratic. Am I correct?
Yeah. The thing, though, is I believe Chula Vistans are Chula Vistans first. And I've been elected 5 times in the city of Chula Vista, 4 times as a council member, 1 time as a school board member. And I believe when people know who you are and have seen your results and you're interacting with them, you build that trust. And I've been very fortunate to be able to build that trust. And the reality is is that local government shouldn't be partisan. When you're filling a pothole, it's not a Democratic pothole, it's not a Republican pothole, it's a pothole that needs to be fixed.
Some people have made it political, though, haven't they?
Well,
you don't.
I
You're not. I know you, and you're not that type of person. But there's some people that have made filling a pothole a political thing. Am I correct?
Unfortunately,
Not you.
I think there has become a time where certain individuals, it's just hyper partisan.
Right.
And we should be able to get together, enjoy each other, and be able to find civil ways of solving problems. And that's always been my goal.
And I think that's why you were elected, you said 5 times?
Yes.
Because I think you are very balanced in the fact that you do such a great job at following through on everything you've always said you were going to do with your promises to the people of Chula Vista. You've had many challenges. I mean, getting involved with the Sweetwater School District in itself is a whole different situation than being involved with the city, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I love our school district, and it was a very interesting time. I had come back from Iraq. I got recruited to help run to sort of clean things up, and it was like peeling an onion. I got there, and every time I peeled the onion, things seemed to get worse and worse and worse. But the good thing is, I think we ultimately were able to turn the budget around. From being cash flow negative to cash flow positive. We were able to actually give the teachers a raise. We were also able to reduce the number of students per classroom, per teacher. So I think in the end, we really set that very strong foundation for the next board to take over. Yeah, but it's funny because my wife and I always tease each other because we always say, friends don't let friends run for school board, because when you debate and say, hey, we're going to put a stoplight here, or we're going to add a road here, people get passionate, but there's nothing more passionate than when people are talking about their own kids. And sometimes it can become very challenging because you want to do the right thing. But people get blinded by their passion for their own children, which I understand as a father and a parent.
Sure you do.
Because you want the best things for your children, but you need to make good decisions to make sure that we have quality education. So again, it's one of those experiences that I think we were able to make things better, but it was very challenging at the time.
Of course. And speaking of education, you went to what college again?
I went to San Diego State.
Okay. So you got your bachelor's in economics from state. Where did you get your master's?
Actually, at San Diego State also. It just worked out because I had done so much information or so much research and everything. I was very fortunate also to do an internship at the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. I know, again, even in Washington, you see how things have become so hyper partisan, but even the Congressional Budget Office has really stayed as one of the mainstays of being able to get good numbers and not left or right, but really be able to focus on its mission. At that time, I was able to help out. They were investigating the banking insurance fund back then. It was fine. Obviously, 20 years later, it was having problems because of the 2008 financial issues.
I remember it well.
Yeah. I think we all remember 2008.
It was a very strange year.
Yeah. And, but yeah, I just loved being going to San Diego State. I'm a Aztec through and through, and really excited that they have a good football team, and then obviously a good basketball team. But
it's a great school,
but truly, just the academics are exceptional.
Oh, they are. Everybody wants to go to school there. Not everybody gets accepted. So my hat off to you. And being a local, of course, Aztec, Barron. And why now have you decided to run for mayor? I mean, because you have a lot of things you could be doing right now. Why now?
Well, Mayor Salas is termed out,
Okay.
and I believe that I had the opportunity to do a good job. Again, I'm the one with the most qualified experience of being on boards and commissions, nonprofits in the city, 4 times as a council member. I know the budget, I know the challenges. I've been there to be able to help grow our police department, grow our fire department. The police station was built, the new police station was built under my leadership. 6 out of the 10 fire stations were built under my leadership.
That's one thing I don't forgive, that I can't forgive you for, by the way. That's where we had the 31 flavors.
Oh, yes. Well, I've got this really, really funny story. Yeah, when I was a kid.
Right on the corner.
Yeah.
You go right by there,
Yeah.
right?
We would always go there. And unfortunately, my parents got a divorce and everything, but my dad would come and see me. And so he would take me to the 31 flavors. And I still remember it was a hot day and my cone was dripping ice cream because it was just melting so much. And my dad was like, "Oh, lick your drips and everything." And I wasn't doing a good job. So he grabbed it and he was going to do it himself. And then he licked it and the ice cream just fell off the cone. So he felt really bad. So that was one of my fun stories when I was a kid.
Well, we have those things about Chula Vista, those memories of different areas. I mean, we still drive by areas, and I have memories of, like you're talking about the ice cream with your father, or things my mom would go. I remember Big Bear. And
Yep.
Big Bear was where Sprouts is now. I think it was
Yep.
a Big Bear there years ago. And it is.
I remember the Fiesta Twin. I remember
Yeah.
Farrell's. Obviously, the Vogue. I remember Dollar Tuesday night movies.
Sure, of course.
And there were just so many stories. And growing up, Chula Vista was just a great time. Roller skate land.
Yeah.
You think about all these great things that were there back in the day.
And now we have kids that don't have the. I could remember just taking my bike and going all day long and going places.
Yeah.
And now there's more cars. And I remember the lights at midnight would blink and everything we had 3 TV stations that would go off. You remember those types of things? I tell my kids this, they don't believe me. They think I'm making all this up, but it's true, wasn't it? I mean, we lived I personally think this is somebody asked me the other day, what's the best 4 years of your life that you've lived so far? And Sarah was with me, and I looked and I said, well, it's probably the last 4 years. But there's some people that live in the past, and maybe the past was better. We had I had challenges too. We had family challenges with me. My father left. But people, a lot of those same people that I grew up with, I still talk to. And it was a great place to be. And it's still a great place. It's exciting to see where it's going now. So you feel now, because Miss Mary Salas is stepping down, because like I said, you could do a lot of things. You really care about the city.
I love the city, and I love my service to the city. And I just see so many opportunities for the city, and continuing to keep it one of the safest cities in the county, making sure that we can handle and tackle this homeless crisis. I remember when I was on the council in the early 2000s, we didn't have any homeless. And now we do. It's not just Chula Vista. It's not just the county. It's the entire state of California that has homeless issues. And then again, just growing up in a working class family, making sure that the city is fiscally responsible and making sure that we're not overtaxing our residents. That's a very, very important thing. But just to tell you, with my kids, it's interesting. You were talking about, I did the same thing. It was sort of, but by the time it's dark, you better either be back at the house or call in. But we would just go out, ride bikes, or go to the canyon and have fun. And but nowadays, things are much different. Everybody has a phone, and I still remember my second son, Grant. He was calling somebody, and he thought something was wrong, and he goes, "Hey, I'm getting this really bad signal what's going on here? And because we go, oh, that's a busy signal. And he had never heard of a busy signal before. and just the idea, because every time he would call somebody, it would go to voicemail.
Right.
And suddenly somebody was, a landline, and it didn't go to voicemail. And so it was a busy signal. So it just shows you that there's so many things that our kids are able to experience today that we never, even thought of when we were kids. It's exciting for them. But at the same sense, sometimes we want to have everybody to have a few things that everybody shares in common. That's, I think, always helpful to keep our society strong.
I agree. Why do you think the homeless situation has grown to the magnitude that it is throughout California? Is it because of the climate, and what is it? What's the reason for it?
I think there are a multitude of challenging issues. One, obviously, we have a great climate in California. My sister went to medical school up in upper state New York, and clearly they sometimes had homeless during the summertime, but in the wintertime they would never have homeless because they would have to migrate somewhere where they could survive during the wintertime. The other thing is that I think there are a lot more opportunities to be able to get help here. So people are looking to be able to do things. And unfortunately, I think also there have become a soft on crime attitude that Sacramento has permeated throughout the California, where many times our police in the Harborside Park incident, before, if somebody had a certain amount of methamphetamines, they could be able to be taken to jail and hopefully get back on a road to recovery, get them clean. But now it's so soft on crime, our police officers only can write them a ticket.
Oh my gosh.
And that clearly is not going to.
I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah. So
why? How did that happen, and why did it happen? I mean,
well, it's just like you've seen this on YouTube. In California, they've changed it that if you shoplift with something less than $950, you just essentially get written a ticket. And it's not just one time per day, it's every other day, or every day you can do that at the same store, as well as you could do it at one store and then go to another store and still do it. So we really need to be able to look at some of the laws that have been passed, because we want to make sure that we want to have people be held accountable if they are doing stealing and doing bad things. And
I can't imagine bills like that passing to make it so easy for people to do those things.
Well, I don't know why they were passed. Obviously, I didn't support them, but I think, we're in a situation where we really need to reevaluate how we take care of things, because people need to be able to feel safe. They need to be able to, if they're going to open a store, they need to be able to be protected from criminals, and they need to be able to actually survive and be able to grow their business.
Sure.
And if people are just stealing from there consistently without any type of consequences, it makes it very challenging for people to want to open a business or stay in business.
I agree. So going back to the homeless situation, because it is a hot button.
Yes.
Recently, Bill Walton came out, and I'm sure you heard what he had to say.
Yes.
Didn't hold back at all, did he?
No, he did not.
So what is the answer? I mean, because a lot of people that are homeless don't want to be in facilities because there's rules. You have to be tested for drugs. You have to be in bed by a certain time. Those types of things, for some people, they just don't want to follow those types of rules. So what do you do with somebody that doesn't want to follow those types of situations, but yet maybe can't take care of themselves because psychologically they're just gone somewhere? I mean, I don't know if medication's the answer. I don't know if we need more institutions, but then again, there's not enough space for the problem, is there?
Yeah, homeless again is a very complicated issue. There is not one size fits all. You look at people, they can be drug dependent, they can be alcohol dependent, they can have mental illness, they could be down on their luck, and a combination of all those things. And so what we've created is the homeless outreach team that in Chula Vista will go meet homeless at least once a week, see where they're at, see how they can help them get back on a road to getting back into society. There was a very interesting person in Eastlake, Chula Vista, and she lived essentially for several months on a bus stop area. And what was happening is I would get all these complaints that this homeless person, Myrna, was always there. And each week, the homeless outreach team would go out, talk to her. They were trying to engage her. The great thing about the United States is that we're a free country. But also, if you're a free country, you still have the ability to decide if you want to get help or not. But the homeless outreach did a great job at building that relationship. And after several months, they were able to get her off the streets and into a facility to be able to get her help. So sometimes it takes a little longer than we'd like. Again, when Myrna was there, I'd get all these emails saying, what are you going to do about it? She can't be there. People complaining about her being homeless. And then when we did get her off the streets, I got all these emails saying, hey, what happened to Myrna? I was trying to give her food. I was trying to help her out. So
isn't it interesting?
Yeah, it was very challenging. But again, one size doesn't fit all. We want to make sure that we have both sides of the coin, though. We want to make sure that we're compassionate, see how we can help somebody get it back on the road to recovery, back into society. Mm-hmm. But in the same sense, we can't tolerate when people are doing drugs, people are doing illegal activities. And that's where we really need to be able to hold those people and individuals accountable.
Well, I think it's going to be there has to be San Diego, all the cities are going to have to work together on this.
Yeah, and one of the great things is that the city of Chula Vista is working with the county, they're working with National City, and they're also working with the state in collaborations. You'll notice, and people tell me this all the time, many times you get off the freeway off-ramp, there'll be somebody who is essentially
panhandling.
Yes. And the homeless are pretty shrewd. They understand that there are certain jurisdictions. So if we have our Chula Vista homeless outreach in Chula Vista, but they're across the way in National City, we're not necessarily going to engage them. Or if they're in the county, or if they're in the state right away with the freeway. So on the 805 and E Street, Bonita Road area, there's a lot of areas where you have that complication of jurisdiction.
I've seen that, by the way.
Yeah, so we've actually, the city has formed great relationships with the other municipalities to be able to go in and engage those unsheltered individuals, see how we can help them, make sure they're being held accountable if they're doing things are wrong. And then we have several nonprofits like the McAllister Group and things like that who are able to help get these individuals either housed or be able to have them be able to get some type of treatment. One of the challenging things is the city of Chula Vista, obviously, we don't have nonprofits like the Salvation Army or St. Vincent de Paul's, but they have people who are social workers who know what to do, how to be able to help these individuals. So that's what the homeless outreach team is. It's usually tends to be one of the teams is 2 social workers with 1 police officer. The social workers go out and engage the homeless, but they're with the police officer, so they have protection. And if there's something illegal, the police officer will take care of that. But many times, if you're just sending out a police officer, the homeless are not going to want to engage with the police officer. So, but the social workers build that relationship, find out what those people need to do to get off the streets, and try to get them off the streets as soon as possible.
So another thing, it's an issue in San Diego, of course, is affordable housing.
Yes.
It's a very touchy thing also because people do need places to live. People that do own land or properties are worried that their property values are going to go down. How is Chula Vista dealing with the situation? I know Coronado recently, everybody's kind of up in arms because they're going to be building affordable housing in Coronado now, which is, I don't know where they're going to put it, of course, but they're looking at different areas. Chula Vista is a little bit wider. How many units do you think they're going to be building in Chula Vista for affordable housing, and how essential is that?
Well, I think the affordable housing is a very key issue. I'm an advocate for affordable ownership. When I was younger and my mom was helping raise my sister and I, she was still able to afford a mortgage. We had to scrimp and save.
She did it.
But she did it. When I was able to get out of college, things were much more expensive, but I still was able to purchase a home and get into that ability to build generational wealth, and actually have the ownership opportunity, the American dream. That I think is, as the building industry and many other people call it, sort of the missing middle. We want not only for people to have affordable housing, but we want to have them to have affordable ownership. So if somebody's going to become a nurse in Chula Vista, a police officer, be a worker of any type in the city of Chula Vista, we want to give them an opportunity to actually live in the city, but also be able to own in the city. One of the great things we did with the master plan communities is, I always say that we had housing all the way from the mailroom to the boardroom. And I remember when I was a kid, when my friends' parents would become a little more affluent, they would move away and they would move to Bonita. And I wanted to make sure that in the future, that when people become a little more wealthy, if they live in Eastlake, they have an opportunity to still live in Eastlake, all the way again from the mailroom to the boardroom. One of the key things I've done is working with the Sunbow developer. We were able to get 718 for sale units, starting at the high 300,000s. So these are starter homes for working class, for professionals, so they can actually buy a property, get into the track of home ownership, and then as they grow and they develop, then they can use that to buy additional property in the future for their family. So that's the key thing. I worked with the developers. Again, first they wanted to put some rental housing, but I wanted to make sure that if we were going to do any type of rezoning, it had to be 100% for sale. And it's now under construction. And the more supply we have of housing, the better it is, and the lower the housing will cost.
Any idea about how much affordable housing we're talking about?
Well, that's 718 specific units.
That's new.
Coming. That's coming. And Chula Vista has always done a very good job at being able to meet their affordable housing goals. They're one of the few cities that has satisfied their regional level goals. Not all the time, but the majority of times we've either met them or been very close, because as a city, we have the ability to grow and build new housing. And again, my push is not just housing, but we want to make sure that we have affordable ownership, new owner buyer opportunities. We want to make sure that people who come to the city of Chula Vista can be able to own and be invested and have a stake in the community.
Very good. For anybody out there that doesn't know who you are, of course, but hopefully they know more about you now, what would you want people to know about you that maybe they don't know, or maybe something that you're passionate about that you'd want them to know about you?
I have a stake in the community. I have a connection in the community. I love the community. I'm not going anywhere. Not only was I raised here, but my wife and I have raised our children here. And now we have a grandson who's getting raised in Chula Vista.
So I was going to joke with you about this and say, John, are you a grandfather yet? And now you actually are a grandfather.
I am a grandfather, a very proud grandfather. And I am connected with Chula Vista in so many different ways, but I want to make sure that we continue to have a great quality of life for not just me, not just my kids, but my grandkids. This is a tremendous city. I think we're one of the best cities in the entire state and entire nation. And I'm going to be here for a long time. I've been here for a long time. I'm fully committed, and I'm not parachuting in just to run for mayor, just to find a job. I'm committed and always have been committed to the city of Chula Vista.
I know that, John. I wish you the very best in your run. And thank you for everything that you've done for Chula Vista. Thanks for always being so humble and being a leader, and also a friend to so many people. And I consider you a friend, John. I always have.
It's mutual. I consider you a friend, Brett, and you have an awesome wife, Sarah, too.
You're a smart man. Especially since she's running the controls. They always run the controls, don't they? Yes. They're always in charge. Well, there you go. John McCann, running for the mayor of Chula Vista, who's very hardworking, and now is a grandfather who's even working harder now. I wish you the very best again, John.
Thank you.
Everybody.
And if anybody ever wants more information, they can just go to johnmccann.com, JOHNMCCANN.com.
Is it there, Sarah? Is it on the bottom of the, no? Do it one more time.
John McCann. It's JOHNMCCANN.com. I was there in the early days of the internet and was able to actually get my own domain name. So it worked out well.
You were a pioneer.
No, I was just very lucky to be there. And
okay, everybody, you heard. He's got a plan. He's consistent, and he's a great guy. I highly recommend John for the mayor of Chula Vista. And if anybody has any questions, he gave you his information. And John, thank you again.
Thank you. Just a pleasure to serve.
I know that, John. I know you really care. Everybody take care of yourselves. Be nice to each other, and God bless. And we will see you in the next show. And I would like to thank my sponsors, Attorney King, Sequan Casino Spa and Resort, IB Fitness, Marina Teal, who does a lot of service in Imperial Beach, has a lot of military people there constantly working out there. 24 hours a day she's open. Amazing, amazing business. And Bonificetta, the garage. You ever had a chance to go to Bonificetta?
I have not yet.
Oh my gosh. Really good Italian food. Thank you for your support, Marco. And we look forward to doing an issue coming up on his family and everything that they're doing in the community of Coronado. Everybody take care and have a good night.